Good evening and welcome to this week's Hamilton Report. I'm Scott J. Hamilton, and I'm very, very happy that you have decided to spend a little time with us this evening. Today is the last day of November, and I trust that you had a good Thanksgiving, a good holiday time, even if it was vastly different than what most of us are used to experiencing. Our guest is having a bit of a scheduling conflict, so will be with us in just a little bit. But a few things I wanted to share with you that I thought would be of particular interest because there's an awful lot going on. A fellow stopped by the office the day after the election, and he said, so what, you guys just pack up and you come back in 4 years? And I explained to him that no, we are here every day of the year. We are working to elect Democrats up and down the state, all across the state. And that's what we do every day. And speaking of which, I hope that you will give serious consideration to running for office or to talking with someone that you know that you believe would be well positioned to run for office. It can be in your local municipality, your school board, your city council, town council. It can be for the state house or the state senate. Anything that you can dream, that you can support and find support for, well, let me tell you that we are here to support you as well. And one of the ways that you can do that is by going to the Oklahoma Democratic Party website, which is okdemocrats.org. And there you'll find an opportunity that says get involved. And there are ways that you can sign up to be a volunteer, to run for office, to share with us your thoughts on who you think would be a good candidate. I heard from a woman today who is so frustrated in Oklahoma and yet wants to make a difference and gave us a very good suggestion of someone to run for office. And I was really happy to hear that. If you're thinking about running for office right away, though, your time is very, very short. Filing is coming up next week. And depending on where you are, the day can be slightly different. So do check with your local county or your city government to find out when you need to register as a candidate for upcoming elections. There are over 230 positions available in the state of Oklahoma that someone can run for. Now, some of those certainly we don't want to contest because they're already held by Democrats. Others, though, are seats that we have a very good chance of changing from red to blue. So there are lots of opportunities, and I encourage you to give serious consideration to how you can be involved by actually running yourself or encouraging someone else to run with you. Start that again, by speaking to someone else about running and showing your support for them. Coming up after the first of the year, we will be hosting our 2021 Campaign Academy, bigger than even the one that we had this year. And it's exciting because it's a way for candidates and those who may be considering running for public office, an opportunity to learn from the ground up how to run a campaign, how to raise money, how to sort data, and understanding what data is used for and how that's used. So that will be coming up in January, and just wanted to bring that to your attention. And finally, we all know that there is a tremendously important race happening in Georgia coming up in just a few weeks. And that will determine who controls the Senate in the United States Capitol. And we are certainly hopeful that we will have two fine senators from Georgia who are, in fact, Democrats. We will be showing you opportunities for getting involved with us in helping those two candidates because it's critically important. Already we're seeing obstruction by Senator McConnell, and that's no big surprise, but it's very frustrating to see such fresh new ideas coming at us from Washington, the White House, not so much, but everywhere else, particularly wherever you might find Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So those are good things happening, and we don't want anyone standing in the way of progressing as Americans, as one people. So with that being said, talking about local politics, I'm very, very happy to welcome to our show this evening a man who has been with us before. He joined us for Pride in Politics earlier this year. And it's always fun talking with him and especially interviewing him because I had the pleasure of being interviewed by him some time ago. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But first, I want to welcome City Council Person James Cooper. Now, that's a new title for you, Council Person.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Until this last election, it was councilman, councilwoman, but the people of Oklahoma City decided to move into this century, and we are now calling our councilors council persons, and I think that's a big plus. How are you tonight, James?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing well. That was actually one of the 9 charter proposals our city put to the voters, as you're aware, this general election cycle. And that particular item was one that I was able to craft. I had heard, from constituents. I had read the charter, and I'd also spoke with Councilwoman Hammond and Councilwoman Nice, who, as you know, have the honor of being the 10th and 11th women to ever serve on our city council. And in that way, it's so cool because I'm living through history with them. But it's also unfortunate that we've only had, the 11th woman and the 10th woman serve on our council. And it was, 2018 and 19 and now 20 before we got there. So it was just time to, let go of archaic language. So thanks for bringing up that particular item.
I also want to say that you did a very good job leading up to the election in explaining to people what the revisions were. Frankly, it was a lot of housekeeping that needed to be done, and you were thoughtful in your approach to how you communicated, not just with your constituents, but the people of Oklahoma City. And I, for one, appreciate that kind of communication because it helps all of us feel a little more involved if we are really clear on what it is that we're voting for or against. So good work with that, James.
I appreciate kind words, and just to kind of, fill everybody in on some, inside ball there. Let's Pop This had reached out to Councilwoman Hammond and myself and asked us to do a video or a podcast, where we would walk through those 9 items. And I thought that was well and good, but to your point about there were a lot of things in there that need to be cleaned up. Several of the proposals came from our municipal council. And I thought, okay, well, if we're going to do a podcast with Councilwoman and I, we probably have our municipal council there so that they can actually, speak directly to why they felt some of those items needed revision. So, for me, I ran a campaign where one of the platform items was transparency. So, if I don't know something that well, I know well enough to turn to the person who does. And, just doing that podcast generally was an opportunity to provide transparency to our people. So.
And I think that's one of the unique things about being a member of the city council, whether it's here in Oklahoma City or Tulsa or anywhere else in the state. You are really the first line. People come to you with an issue, a question, and it would be impossible for everyone who sits in that horseshoe to have all the answers. But you do have colleagues and you have resources to help find those answers. And I want to say that I think that at least from my perspective, the city council seems to be working well together right now. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see people being very measured and considerate about the health of people here in Oklahoma City. And I know that you all have had a lot of pushback on mask mandates and so forth, but you have kept the health and welfare of your constituents and all the people here in Oklahoma City in mind through that. And I know that that's had to cause some sleepless nights just because of the slings and arrows back and forth. But really, I'm appreciative of the way that you all are working together. And as we move into the next few weeks, we're going to see some potential, not potential, we will be seeing some changes to the composition of the council. Already we have people who have made known to us that they're running, and they'll be filing next week. So it's an exciting time to see people really passionate about serving in this role.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you, if you would please, to take a step back. Now, I should mention to our viewers that you have been a staunch advocate for better public transportation in Oklahoma City. You are on the Board of Trustees for Central Oklahoma Transportation. I'm close. I'm dropping the P.
Closer than most people is what you just I am very proud. No, the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority, COPPA. I know. Parking garages. I'm over parking garages. You're forgiven for forgetting them. I wish we would too.
Well, some good changes, some necessary changes have taken place with our public transportation. For years, if you worked on Sunday, you were just out of luck when it came to public transportation. And also people attending worship services were left to their own devices to try to get there if they didn't drive. And now there are some options for public transportation on the weekend, some later routes now, which I think is very encouraging. That's how you grow a city, with looking ahead a bit to the needs, but also recognizing the needs that are here right now. And I love seeing a bus stop full of folks. I love seeing the streetcars with people riding inside. And so we're making progress there. And congratulations to you for just being real dogged in your efforts to continue to expand our public transportation options. It's life-changing when you have the opportunity to really turn to public transportation and find that it works for your needs. So good work with that.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope.
Of the things that have occurred this year, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's a year unlike any other just because we've been so cloistered, all of us, in our own ways, in our work, in our home, however that worked out for folks. But what are some of the things that you are most pleased with in terms of Oklahoma City this year, some of the progress that we've made?
Yeah, thanks. So I think probably first and foremost on everyone's mind is the, novel coronavirus. And in that way, I am very appreciative to the partnership, our city council. Remember, there's 8 of us with our mayor. It's a nonpartisan role. I'm very thankful for the partnership we have with our OKC County Health officials. I'm thankful for the relationship we have with our emergency management officials. I specifically, as a council person, have attended almost every Friday as a update with the Oklahoma City County Health officials about COVID numbers, about where we are, hospitalizations, everything. And I think that's something I've been very impressed by this year, is the seriousness with which the Oklahoma City County Health took this pandemic. Our emergency management took this pandemic. I am very thankful we were able to turn to money from the general obligation bond voters approved in 2017. Remember, we only really get a chance every 10 years as a city. This is something I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about over the next couple of years that I'm serving during this first term. But we only get once every 10 years to invest in our city's infrastructure. That's our bond election. And, otherwise the city runs on sales tax. But that once every 10 years we get to do the property tax. And what we were able to do during this year was, as we started seeing the hurt in our small business community, specifically our restaurants and our bars, and then the hurt in our nonprofit community, we were able to turn to money that voters approved in terms of economic development, which was one of the items in the 2017 bond. Voters approved that. We were able to turn to specifically that money and then bring it to the council, and then council approved millions of dollars in forgivable loans, technical assistance, grants that we were able to get out the door to people as they were hurting. Could it have been more? You betcha. I'm really someone who believes this moment is where every level of government, from local, state, and federal, really truly need to step in to make sure that our people are able to endure until a vaccine becomes viable for enough of our people next spring and summer. And I'm very proud of the work we did at the council to get that money out the door into the small business community and nonprofits. But I'm very, very, very frustrated that it's been since the spring Congress and the federal government, as led by the president, have sent economic relief, not just to our small businesses and nonprofits, but to our people. I was going to say, one other thing is we had an economist come and speak to us at council about a month or so ago, and your listeners might be aware that at present our sales tax revenue and use tax revenue we have collected is beating the projections our city manager and our economist had for us. But when I started questioning the economist, Russell Evans, great guy, very knowledgeable, and I said, am I wrong to worry that what happens when those unemployment benefits from the state level disappear, or not just disappear, but lessen to the extent that they have? Am I wrong to worry what happens when that the effects of that $1,200 stimulus check goes away? Am I wrong to worry what happens if Congress doesn't pass another congressional financial relief package? That what could very well happen, and what I'm very, very worried will happen, is when people have less money in their pockets, it's harder to pay those grocery bills. It's harder to pay rent. It's hard to pay for prescriptions. It's harder to pay for the basic needs of the individual. So I really worry, unless Congress acts, that some of our efforts at the city level will find themselves in vain. And it's similar, I'm very happy that we passed the mask ordinance here at the city.
I am too.
A good chunk of the state has not, and our governor has not. And a significant number of the hospitalizations, Oklahoma City's ICU units, what they are experiencing, they're coming largely from our rural neighbors who are living in towns where there is no mask ordinance. And without that mask ordinance, it's easier for the droplets through the nose and through the mouth, as you know, to spread through the air. That's what's happening. And these folk are finding themselves, our rural neighbors are finding themselves in our hospital beds, where we already have a nursing shortage. And now, as you know, we're experiencing a bed shortage. And there could be a very real time coming. And this was in one of those conversations I had with our emergency management. There could be a really devastating time coming where ambulances will have to make some just devastating choices about whether or not to bring people to hospitals at all, like a rationing of care. Because of that nursing staff shortage we already have, the hospital bed shortage we already have. And if those numbers keep rising as we're seeing them rise, then that is going to strain already strained systems. So again, while I am very proud of the economic relief we were able to get into our community, very proud of being able to pass the mask ordinance, I'm deeply concerned that without the state government meeting us in this moment, without the federal government meeting us in this moment, we're fighting with one hand tied behind our back.
And that's something that is not, it's not fair to the people of Oklahoma. And I'm chagrined that our leadership in the governor's mansion has not done more. You mentioned first responders. I can't say enough good things about our EMSA folks. I had 2 family members recently that were hospitalized. Good care, got there quickly, took them to the hospital, and then when they were in the hospital, had to wait over 24 hours in the emergency room for a room. And these were some pretty significant injuries. So to be thinking in terms of rationing care, that alone should be reason enough for everyone to wear a mask. And I have decided that it doesn't matter if it's a convenience store or a supermarket, if I see people going in or inside without a mask, I will not shop there anymore. And as far as I'm concerned, that goes beyond the pandemic. I am not going to reward bad behavior. And I think that we have got too much, we've come too far now to get lazy. So I'm going to step off my soapbox for a moment.
Well,
You really hit a nerve there, because this is life and death. And man, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we had a very respected journalist who passed away, as you know, recently in our city from COVID. My news feed is daily filled with people who have tested positive, experiencing those symptoms. Sometimes they're not so terrible. Sometimes they're absolutely punishingly terrible. This shirt that I am wearing is from one of my favorite restaurants in the Asian district, with Ward 2 is honored to have. Our borders go from Northwest 23rd Street to Northwest 122nd, and then 235 is our eastern border, and then Meridian, Tulsa, and Portland each kind of take turns as our western border. So when I think of small businesses, that's not an abstract concept to me. Those are the restaurants where, even before I had the honor of serving on council, I had the honor of dining in those places. And I've seen how hard they've worked to make successful businesses, not just, this particular restaurant, but whether it's restaurants in the Asian district, Uptown 23rd, Paseo, 39th Street LGBT district, Old Downtown Britain district, Windsor district. This is not an abstract argument for me, and it's become nearly infuriating, not actually infuriating, when I see people commenting on the mayor's page about, this being a hoax or stuff like that. All I can think about are my small businesses, many of whom I know by name, in terms of the baristas, the servers, the bartenders. Their livelihoods are at stake, and their lives are on the line. And so it's really been the honor of my life to serve in this moment, because it's no longer abstract ideological debates. It is truly policies we pass determine in the immediate moment the livelihoods and the future safety and well-being of everyone within those Ward 2 boundaries I just described, and within our larger city. And even though I don't represent outside of the city, I'm an Oklahoman, and so I consider our rural neighbors neighbors. So no, I wanted to start with coronavirus, because I think that's just front and center, and I think to not start there, it would be to do a disservice to the frontline healthcare workers who are doing everything they can, and then all the people in Ward 2 who are taking seriously this pandemic. And I think it's important, anybody who's listening, watching this evening, I know how frustrating it is when you see the mask below someone's nose. I know how maddening it is to see that moment, or to see someone without a mask at all. But I want you to know that I see and hear you as your elected representative, and I am beyond proud of the sacrifices you're all making. And someone needs to do that to you, because our governor can't find himself to really be that person right now. So,
well, and I think that speaks well for everyone here in Central Oklahoma who has taken it seriously, and I appreciate your leadership on that. James, before we do anything else, I want you just to focus your lenses on your crystal ball, and let's look ahead for next year. What are you hopeful for Oklahoma City in 2021?
Mm-hmm. So the vaccine, that's critical. That is something that will find its way to Oklahoma, and specifically to our county health officials. And I'm very much looking forward to a meeting later this week with them to figure out to learn more about how we plan on making sure our frontline responders receive that first and foremost, and then our most vulnerable communities, and then those of us who are healthier. That's so critical, because if we don't have that vaccine, it's harder to alleviate the fear in the marketplace. You know, the economy is people. People are the economy. The less scared they are of a life-threatening virus, the more likely they are to go to the different districts I just described. So I'm really looking forward to that vaccine. I'm also really looking forward to the mayor appointing folk to the 6 different MAPS 4 subcommittees. As you remember, earlier this year, I had the honor of electing Freedom Oklahoma's executive director, Ali Shen, to become the representative for MAPS 4. She's representing Ward 2 on the MAPS 4 Citizens Advisory Board. And that excites me a great deal. Someone with proven leadership in the nonprofit world, and then just to bring the diversity that she brings to the table, I think is really neat. The other council members got to appoint someone to their respective wards, and now it's time to look at all 16 projects, and they get broken up into 6 different categories. And I've been making a list of people who've reached out to me, or people who've been on my mind, who I think have passion and knowledge for the different items. I'm really looking forward to the mayor making those recommendations to the mayor and seeing those become implemented. I just think it's really important for everyone to pause on MAPS. Like that is something we really need to be thinking about as we're going into 2021. And speaking of abstract, it might feel, and it will feel this year in 2022, I suspect, like MAPS is an abstract part of our lives. That 1 penny sales tax that voters approved overwhelmingly in 2019 might feel abstract, but it won't be once we start, as we did in April of 2020, started collecting that penny sales tax revenue. Once the Citizens Advisory Board really finds its sea legs, and then the 6 subcommittees find themselves in place, then they bring on a consultant to work with them to talk about the order of those projects. Remember, we build as we collect. So it's a debt-free endeavor, MAPS 4. And what that means is that 2021 will be an opportunity for those 6 MAPS 4 subcommittees, the advisory board on which Ali serves, working with the consultant in our city's MAPS 4 office to figure out which projects do we build first and why. Give you an example. Sorry,
and I'm actually going to stop you there, because I can't believe it, the time has moved very quickly. We are out of time, but I'm going to ask you to wrangle a colleague or two and to come back on with us, and we'll do a little deeper dive in what we're looking at for 2021 here in Oklahoma City. Is that a promise?
Yeah, it's definitely a promise. The only other thing I would say about MAPS is get ready, everybody. You're going to see investments in your neighborhoods, your neighborhood parks like you've never seen. Transit, bus rapid transit to the south side, bus rapid transit to the northeast side, connecting with a bus rapid transit to the northwest side. Our future is bright, even though we are living in what might seem like a lack of light these days. So be strong.
Well, thank you for bringing the light to the city council, and thanks for being with us tonight. And I'll look forward to visiting with you real soon. James Cooper, Councilperson Cooper from Ward 2 here in Oklahoma City. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you for your time and your input. You take care, Scott. Thanks for all you're doing.
Well, finally, I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege here. It's not my business to tell you or to even suggest where or how you spend your money. But I just want to point out one restaurant in Oklahoma City that is actively supporting a campaign with the governor and our 2 senators to raise money for Republicans in Georgia, and that is Swadley's. So if Swadley's is on your regular menu, just be aware that they are taking money and they are raising money to send to Georgia to retain control of the United States Senate. I'm going to leave that right there for tonight. And I want to thank you for being with us this evening. We will be here every Monday night through the end of the year. And if you keep watching, then we'll keep being here even after that. From all of us at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton, thanking you for being with us. Have a good evening, and I'll look forward to spending half an hour with you again this time next week. Thanks so much. Good night.